East Coast beaches will be gone in 25 years because of global warming. I hate to report it, but it's in the New York Times. Look at this. At the most likely rate of rise, some experts say most of the beaches on the East Coast of the United States will be gone in 25 years. They're already disappearing at an average of 2 to 3 feet a year. Oh, man, I can't believe this. How are we going to manage this? Delta's in distress. If the effects of global warming raise levels an average of 1.5 feet around the world, as some scientists predict, parts of many populated deltas will become inhabitable. There's a Mississippi Delta, home of the blues. France, Netherlands, Argentina. No one's going to be able to live there in 25 years. And this isn't just some freaking crazy loon from, Stephen Hamburg, a forest ecologist at Brown University. Look this. Scientists, man, scientists. And they have the S means they're more than one. The Earth has entered a period of climate change that is likely to cause widespread economic, social, and environmental dislocation over the next century, if heat-trapping gases are not reduced, according to experts advising the world's governments. The picture of probable destruction, including adverse changes and some that are beneficial, emerges after a draft section of the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change with the UN. The panel of 2,500 scientists from around the world advises parties to a 1992 treaty that are negotiating reduction in heat-trapping greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, and we're not even talking about methane, nitrous oxide, or the biggest one, water vapor. Oh no. The possible effects including continued rise in average global sea level, which is likely to amount to more than 1.5 feet. Wait. Global sea level rising be likely to amount to more than 1.5 feet by 2100? What? 25 years, the beaches on the East Coast will gone because they're already disappearing at 2 to 3 feet a year. What? How could, oh my lands. We're all gonna die! Oh no, what are we gonna do? Climate forecasting is difficult and often controversial science. One major subject of dissension on the computer models. There's wide agreement among scientists that the average surface temperature of the globe has already risen by 1 degree Fahrenheit during the last century, with the steepest rising taking place in the last 40 years. Yeah, from 1979. Anyway, notice I just want to point out here to you real quick there, is that this is Dateline 1995. So 25 years from 1995 would be 2000. Now last, I think we're still going to the beach. I could have sworn we still are. Check this out. Sea level rise is one of the clear consequences expected of climate change, says Dr. Stephen Leatherman, who's some clown at the University of Maryland. Since his last full assessment, though, the panel has cut its estimate of expected sea level rise. Remember, sea levels are rising at all of 1 millimeter a year. 1 millimeter a year. Oh my goodness, we're all going to die. But I want to show you something. Here's from The Guardian, Dateline 2005. Bird flu pandemic could kill 150 million. Look at that poor bird. Oh no. Who is saying this? You want to take a guess? Let's take a look here. It's going to be our favorite. Right here. Neil Ferguson, professor of math biology at ICL. He said around 40 million people died in the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. There are 6 times more people on the planet today, so you can scale it up to around 200 million people. Probably. Interesting. Science, baby. Science. Because, he's a scientist, and we're not. We're just clowns on YouTube. What do we know? I think 200 million people did die from the bird flu, right? If memory serves. Let's keep looking. We've now met the ICL's epidemiologist and professor of mathematical biology, Neil Ferguson, who's a gold standard of disease modeling, according to the New York Times and Washington Post. How dare you challenge them? Ferguson is, of course, the expert whose projections of huge death tolls from what cannot be named have supported the ongoing shutdowns. Looking back at the Guardian article, the death toll from the bird flu was 455. Dr. Ferguson was equally off with his death projections for mad cow disease. He made big headlines in the UK by predicting that mad cow could killed between 50 and 50,000. Science. Millions of cows were slaughtered. But to be fair, his scientific model is right on. He said between 50 and 50,000, and the death toll is 178. In 2000, he published estimates predicting that the number of variable CJD cases might reach, I don't even know what that is, but I did a video on this a couple years ago. We can look, I probably had to take it down because it's probably banned. 20 years later, he said the CJD cases might be 136,000 in the coming decades. 20 years later, it probably isn't too early to conclude that he was wrong. Among the British publications that have recently drawn attention to his record are The Sun and The Telegraph, but the Washington Post reported on Ferguson effect in the current crisis. A chilling scientific paper helped upend UK and US coronavirus strategies. And then we go to, I think this has been taken down, Fumento. I think you got to look at his own website here, because Fumento, I think this came down. Or is it still up? Hold on a second. Because there's an article in here about the 2009 swine flu. Fumento had written this book, The Myth of Heterosexual, and I gotta be careful what I say, how a tragedy has been distorted by the media and partisan politics. As far as viral outbreaks, I did my first that article back in 1986, which made international news. Many responded to that outbreak by saying, everyone's going to get it. And I called BS, and I was right, says Fumento. And over the years, with one disease after another, I just got better and better at understanding it. SARS, Ebola 1, Ebola 2, the CJD, that's the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, avian flu, Zika. Every single time I called it right, and by some great coincidence, the public health people always called it wrong. Yep, absolutely. It's called Farr's Law. It was first promulgated in 1840, which is importantly 18 years before the first public health existed anywhere in the world organization. It says that all epidemics, meaning all epidemics, follow a more or less bell-shaped curve. They start out with a very steep incline, and over time they slope, and then they eventually flatten and go down. That may seem obvious even to those who don't know about the law, yet we hear with each new epidemic, if the virus continues to spread at the current rate exponentially, and the answer is always the same. They never do. Ever, ever, ever. It's the way diseases work. They get the low-hanging fruit first, and as time goes on, they exhaust the low-hanging fruit, and it's harder for them to claim victims. And the numbers go way down. SARS disappeared in July 23, 2003. You can read the article, why that did that, and I can't say it again, obviously, because I'll get banned for everything. The World Health Organization has suddenly gone from crying the sky is falling to cackling Chicken Little to squealing like a stuck pig. The reason charges that the agency deliberately fomented something hysteria. The world is going through a real pandemic. The description of it as fake is wrong and irresponsible, said the agency. And then you can read all about it. I'm not going to do too much as more, but here, this guy is not a anti-vaxxer. He actually says the damage of the anti-vaxxation. The doctor who launched, and he's going to talk about Wakefield, who I'm a fan of Wakefield, by the way. The doctor who launched the modern anti-vaccine movement acted dishonestly and irresponsibly, said the General Medical Council. But they did not. They did not. They found in favor of the guy who was suing on behalf with Wakefield, actually. And 2 or 3 years later, they had to retract this. Interesting, but you'll never see that. Anyway, so I'm a fan of Wakefield, and I'm a fan of Fumento. He's just wrong here because people can be wrong. Not me, but people can. Anyway, the world is full of, the world is full of fear porn. Shield yourself from it and just move on. All right, we'll see you.